He is the operations supervisor for the city Section 8 program. Wendy Kim, housing specialist. Doris Valoria, housing specialist.
Hey,
And
hey,
Wally, yes.
I can't hear her.
Oh, hello. Eh,
Annalisa, I think we heard you. Can you hear us now?
It's very
Sorry.
quiet.
Okay,
I was able to hear her.
Okay, the city's EHP team members are Kerry Kanashiro. He is our operations supervisor for the city Section 8 program. We have Wendy Kim and Doris Villora, who are the EHV housing specialists, and Wally Macarag is our inspector for EHV units, but he's not here present at this meeting. We are ready and willing to accept referrals. We know that there will be the bugs to work out like any new program, but we are ready to dive into the EHV world with all of you. Unlike PHA, we are not prioritizing leasing in place. So I have a few bullets to go over with you. Families have to meet one of 4 EHV conditions to be eligible for the program: homeless, at risk of homelessness, fleeing or attempting to flee domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, stalking, and human trafficking, or recently homeless and for whom providing rental assistance will prevent the family's homelessness and have high risk of housing instability. Within the 4 categories, our priorities go out to kupuna, 64 and over, and former foster youth with minor children in the Hawaii foster care system.
Hey, Jane. Sorry.
Yes.
Could you try to pull your
Yeah.
microphone a little bit further from your mouth? I think it might be creating a little bit of static.
Okay. I'll
Perfect.
put it
Thank
away.
you.
Is it better?
Thank you.
Okay.
That's perfect.
Families must, thank you. Families must have all Section 8 required documents. Please have the families complete the HUD 92006 form, which is what we call the alternate contact form. Have them put your provider information so we can contact you directly if necessary. One of HUD's primary requirement is that documents must be original. Either the EHV form, and correct me which one it is, Lauren, either the EHV form or HMIS form, assessment form, there is a question asking that the original documents have been seen. Please validate this on the form. If you cannot validate this, don't go past the start line. Please be sure that the documents are legible. We are audited a lot, and reviewing the PII, the personal identifiable information, is always a part of those reviews. HUD EHV requires the housing agency to work with continuum of care partners to receive referrals. PIC is our COC partner, and we will receive referrals through the coordinated entry system. Please note that HUD EHV does not provide funding for support services. So if the family is still in need of services, please be sure that the support follows them. Again, that's not a requirement of the EHV program. To minimize confusion and have clear communication with all, I put in the chat box Wendy and Doris's contact information. They are available by email or phone. Please allow them time to respond to you if you are going to contact them directly. Our inspector Wally will be the one, again, conducting inspections. And once that comes to the loop, you will find out how to contact him if you need to. But we will definitely give you that information, pass that information on to you, because that's getting very close to family being assisted. So I thank you again for attending this meeting. I know there's another one tomorrow, but I'll pass it back to Lauren. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you so much, Jane, for the introduction. Just so that everyone knows, we are also recording this training, and we will be posting both today and tomorrow's training to the Partners in Care Emergency Housing Voucher webpage. It is, I know we've had a few questions about this. They're not a 2-part training, so you're not going to need to attend both. You're more than welcome to attend both if you would like to. We will be covering, for the most part, the same information, aside from question and answering potentially that that comes at the end if those are different. So just wanted to start off with that. And then I'm going to share my screen here so that you guys can all see the agenda that I prepared for today's training. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, perfect. So here, I'll just briefly touch on what we're going to be going over. So the first step that we're going to be going over is the emergency housing voucher city workflow and the lease up process. So Jane and the rest of the city and county team, please feel free to jump in at any point once I start going over that. If you'd like to elaborate or, add any perspective from your side. We've worked with the city and county as the Partners in Care Emergency Housing Voucher team to really finalize these details. So that's partially what has taken us a little while to set up this training, and we want to thank everybody for your patience while we've worked to finalize those details. This workflow is something that we recognize can change in the future as needed. So if you guys have questions about it, please do feel free to ask once we get to the question and answering section. The second thing that we'll be going over is completing the emergency housing voucher assessment. There are two ways that these assessments will be completed. Most of you guys who will be completing these assessments will be going through HMIS. Josh will be sharing his screen to share just briefly, it's super quick, how to access and complete the assessment in HMIS. For any victim service providers or VSPs, the platform is not used, so we go through Google Sheets, and the CES team is here joining us today. We'll be able to just touch briefly on how you can complete the assessment through the Google Sheets if you are going through the victim service provider route. And then we will go over the city EHV application packet. So again, the city, your team can feel welcome to join in and add any feedback or anything like that to the application packet as I go through it. I'm happy to lead that. And then we'll go over the application, which is 15 pages, the application itself. And then included, there are a few additional forms that we'll cover. And then we will go over the what to submit checklist, all of the eligibility documents for things such as income, assets, expenses, things of that nature will be mentioned on that what to submit checklist so that you guys can see what eligibility documents will be required in addition to the application and provided forms. And then we will go over the uploading of the documents to HMIS. That will be, Josh, I hope that's okay for you to just briefly show. All that we'll go ahead and show you is where you can upload the documents to and how to add a new document upload. Just a heads up, we did update it so that it mostly shows the city documents. We know that some of you guys have been working with us to go through the state EHV application process as well. Since those application packets are all due on the 28th, we've actually updated it to reflect which city documents are going to be due. If you are still wrapping up the HPHA application packet, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about these updates. And then we will go over the additional training schedules, which will be pretty quick. There will be a CES and EHV training that we schedule for victim service providers, since again, you don't go through HMIS for that training. It'll be going through the Google platform that we'll be using for victim service providers. We will also touch on the office hours, which I'll just reiterate at the end of this. We will be scheduling, and the links are to come out for every other Friday, beginning April 8th from 12 noon to 1 p.m. And then there are and will be made available additional training sessions upon request. We will also have weekly provider meetings starting the first week of May. Those have not been scheduled yet, as again, we're wrapping up the state EHV program. We're looking to not have overlapping of those meetings. And then we will go over just briefly what the EHV document checklist spreadsheet is going to look like. That's how all of us, the city, our team, and also all of the providers are going to be able to track who is missing which documents once we begin that application packet and review process. And then lastly, we'll have time for a question and answer session to answer any questions that you folks have.
Lauren, super quickly before we move on, I think Connie has a question.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lauren. I just wanted to clarify for a victim service provider, you're talking about people whose programs specifically serve them because we are not specifically a victim service provider, but we do have victims, of those things that you talk about.
Correct. I'm referring to agencies such as the Domestic Violence Action Center, Parents and Children Together, Susanna Wesley, different agencies that are specifically victim service providers. So if your agencies currently utilize HMIS, this shouldn't be a concern for your team.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay. So anything that you would like to add, City, before I jump over to sharing the EHV workflow?
No, go right ahead. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So it's quite a long workflow that we've worked to finalize. So I'm just going to zoom in and take you guys through each step of the process. I will, again, come back at the end of this and ask if there's any questions that folks would like to have answered. But Madison, if you can just let me know if anyone raises their hand for clarification as we go through this. I recognize some of these questions will just be specific to either verbiage or these boxes, so it might be easier for me to answer as I go rather than wait to the question and answer section for some of these. So again, all assessments are done and documents are uploaded to HMIS for the EHV, CES, and provider teams, and the city and county will also be utilizing HMIS to review these documents, with the exception for victim service providers. The first step is that a potential client reaches out to the city and county Section 8 office to inquire about the emergency housing voucher program. Again, the potential client presents at an EHV access point. These are the 4 categories that Jane mentioned for anyone who may have missed that in the beginning. Number 1, they can be homeless, which would be further identified as in an emergency shelter, outreach, health center, or transitional housing program. The second category is at risk of homelessness. So if they are in a homeless prevention program. The third is fleeing domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, dating violence, or human trafficking, or if they are going through a victim service provider. And then the fourth category is that if they are recently homeless, so if they're in a rapid rehousing program or permanent supportive housing program. If the potential client reaches out to the city, to City and County Section 8 office to inquire about the emergency housing voucher program, then the city and county would respond to those general inquiries from the potential clients who are on the wait list or others who are eligible under the 4 categories. Excuse me. And then they would determine if the potential client meets one of the 4 eligible categories for the emergency housing voucher program. And anyone who has been convicted of a felony, have been convicted of production or distribution of methamphetamines on federal property, or have a lifetime sex offender registration would then be disqualified. If they are not eligible, the city and county informs that person that they do not meet the EHV eligibility category. If they are eligible, the city and county connects the clients to the CES access points on the Partners in Care website, accessing the CES page, or directs them to work with their housing provider. And then the city and county encourages the providers to reach out to the EHV team with any questions, which is myself and Madison at the moment. From there, any of these clients who are already in your programs and you guys have identified them as potential candidates, we would just skip straight to box 8.
Lauren, before we go into box 8, Connie has another question.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lauren. I just wanted to clarify on the felonies. You said that any felony will disqualify them, and I thought it was specific type of felonies.
So the city and county and Section 8 or HPHA are a little bit different with those qualifiers. Jane or Gail, would you like to elaborate a little bit?
No, the felony is actually it's convicted of any of the 2, having either be convicted of production or distribution of methamphetamine or lifetime sex offender. The other barriers we've taken them off.
So they are eligible then?
Yeah, they can be eligible, correct.
Awesome. Thank you so much for clarifying that.
I'm sorry, it's produced or manufactured methamphetamine on the premises of federally assisted housing. so it's specific to federally assisted housing, and it's the other prohibited group are people who are permanently registered to a state sex offender registry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie.
And then Lauren, we have one more comment from,
Okay.
well, two more, sorry. Desiree asked, is it just drug distribution on federal property? Drug charges not on, federal property will do. And then Charlene asked, any drug charges, convictions? Yes.
So correct me if I'm wrong, city and county, but just to clarify, it would be the production or distribution specifically of methamphetamines on HUD or federally assisted property. So if they're receiving assistance from the Public Housing Authority and they're convicted of production or distribution of methamphetamines while on that property, then that would constitute as that rule or disqualifier.
Correct.
Any other questions about that one before I move on?
So just remember, it's federally assisted housing properties.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Going on to box 8. And just to clarify, sorry about that, this is the access point. There's a few different points for the coordinated entry system standpoint. And then this is the assessment / pre-referral navigation phase. So number 8 here, the provider completes the emergency housing voucher assessment and downloads the eligibility packet from the emergency housing voucher website. And there's a couple of steps that happen from there. One is that the provider begins working with the clients to start collecting the application packet, which again is downloaded from the PIC website, and the RAFTA packets and unsigned leases for those only who have a lease in place. And we really want to reiterate that if clients who are planning on staying in their current home are needing assistance in their current unit that they're leased at, this is the only circumstance where we're encouraging you to collect a RAFTA packet. We anticipate that most clients going through the city and county EHV program will be moving or literally homeless and needing to find a unit. So this would not apply in terms of the RAFTA packet for those clients, but you can start collecting the rest of the application packet for all clients at that point, regardless. And then the clients will provide the documents to the provider. At the same time, then the CES team downloads the emergency housing voucher assessment report in HMIS, and then they conduct the pre-screening eligibility, which verifies the household meets the EHV category that they're applying under based on their HMIS information, and then they add the new applicants to the EHV document checklist spreadsheet. The EHV team then reaches out to providers to invite them to weekly provider meetings. The CES team at the same time grants providers access to the emergency housing voucher document checklist. Box number 14. The emergency housing voucher team updates the EHV document checklist weekly prior to the provider meetings. So that's what Madison and I focus on for the most part. And then the providers attend weekly meetings to provide updates and receive action items, and this continues until the lease-up process is completed. At the same time, from box 14, the EHV team attends weekly meetings to receive updates and provide action items. Again, continues until the lease-up process is completed, and the city and county attend these meetings as well. Box number 18. The EHV team reviews the full application packet to verify all eligibility documents have been submitted. If not all documents have been submitted, it will go back to box 15 for us to continue collecting those documents. If all packets have been, if all of the documents in the packet have been submitted, then we refer the applicant to HPHA. And how that happens is now we're in this referral step. The CES team inputs the referral into HMIS, then refers or inputs the referral to the referrals city PHA/PH spreadsheet, CCing the city PHA, the EHV team, and the providers so that we all are notified that the referral has been made. At that point, the city and county reviews the criminal background check and income eligibility and updates all teams using the referrals city PH spreadsheet. The provider notifies the client of the referral, and then the city and county review all eligibility documents in HMIS. Here, one of two things will happen. The city and county will deny the application and notify the EHV team and client that the application was denied. At that point, it would go back to the providers attending the weekly meetings to provide updates and receive action items until we can verify that we've collected all outstanding documents, or the city and county approves the application and sends the voucher briefing notification. This takes us to the post-referral process, where clients attend the city and county EHV briefing, receive the voucher, sign vouchers, and receive the RAFTA packets and unit budget details. At this point, the city and county also issue the voucher to the client. From there, the following two things happen. Our LEP team gets involved with searching for units for those who need housing or rehousing if the RAFTA packet submitted for their intended lease in place is not approved or does not meet those budget details. And then the provider will also assist the client with downloading a new RAFTA packet from the city and county website. If and when needed, we put that here because we will come back to that. From there, the landlord engagement team works with the landlords to collect the RAFTA packets and unsigned leases, and the provider works with the client to collect the RAFTA packet. There are some sections of the RAFTA packet that require the client's signatures, and so we've put them there kind of simultaneously as they're done essentially in the same step, but from our experience so far, usually the landlords will fill it out first because then the clients understand the information that they're signing on the RAFTA packet as well.
Lauren,
Yeah.
Jane has her hand up.
Oh, yes.
Okay, just wanted to go back a little further back and say
Yeah.
that if the application is denied and, we cannot, it goes back to the provider, but there are certain applications that may be denied due to criminal background check or whatever that you can't fix. So just know that we'll send it back to you, but, it can't be fixed. Or we'll send it back to you because something's missing. But those can be fixed. So go back on, you'll be going back on track after that. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate you adding that in there. Okay. Madison, would you mind admitting whoever's in the lobby at the moment? Thank you.
I'm working on it.
Thank you. And then from there, once we've collected the completed RAFTA packet for both the client and the landlord and the unsigned lease as well, then the providers work with the clients to return the RAFTA packets and unsigned leases through HMIS, except for the EFTA and payee info pages, which are needing to be returned via hand delivery to city and county because they're required to be wet signed. The client is also welcome to do this if the providers are unable to and the clients are able to. From there, the city and county review the RAFTA packets and the unsigned leases to determine if the clients meet the gross rent and income requirements, that the unit is rent reasonable, and that all docs are complete, and then they notify all parties. If the application is incomplete or not approved, it would go back to the provider assisting with the downloading of a new RAFTA packet. And as Jane mentioned, it is possible as well that the application is just not approved, and this would essentially drop off at that point.
Just for a little bit, a little note or a little comment. The city is the building code agency or government agency that covers the building code. So if the unit is not in compliance with building code zoning, we will deny those also. So if, for example, if it's coded as a single family home, single family detached home, and they've broken the landlord, the owner has broken it up to 2 or 3 different rental units, we cannot approve that. even if it meets inspection requirements and all, because it doesn't meet the city zoning requirements.
Thank you so much. I forgot to put that in there, but yes, our landlord engagement team does check for these kinds of things in the City and County of Honolulu tax information pages. They're able to check for things like if they are zoned and if they're technically considered as rental units or legal units that they can rent from. But if your clients are searching for their own units or if they are intending to submit an application with a lease in place, this is definitely something to either help them or let them know that they should check for before they submit that RAFTA packet. Thank you so much, Jane. If the applications and RAFTA packets are approved, then it would go on to the city and county team beginning HQS inspections. On the client side, an adult must be present for the HQS inspection unless they're needing to move and this is a new unit and a lockbox is available. If someone is living in the unit, there must be an adult present. If the HQS inspection fails, the city and county team updates the landlords and providers of unit fill items and necessary repairs, including who is responsible for the repairs and the timeline to complete the repairs or rent decrease. And then landlords must make those repairs required of them within the timeline given by the city and county team. Similarly, if repairs are required of the clients, they're required to make them within the timeline given to them by the city and county team. If those repairs are not made and not approved upon reinspection by the city and county, then it would go all the way back here for where the provider would assist the client with downloading a new RAFTA packet. And that's why we added if or when needed, because under this circumstance, they would need a new RAFTA packet for that unit. I will come back up here. If the repairs are made and approved upon reinspection by city and county, we come up to this step where HQS inspection passes. It's the same step as box 35. If the HQS and rent reasonableness pass the first time when the city and county team review, and then they inform the EHV team, landlords, and providers that the unit passed. If the if the HQS inspection passes, then the city and county will create the HAP contract, confirm the move-in date, and schedule the pickup for the HAP contract. At the same time, providers are to assist clients and landlords with coordinating lease signings and, if possible, to attend the lease signing. From there, the providers pick up and deliver the HAP contracts to the landlords during the lease signing, or the client can do this as well. We've added in the provider because we recognize that many of these clients will be literally homeless, may not have vehicles or access to transportation, and in some extenuating circumstances may not be physically able to make the commute. The next step is that the landlords are to sign the lease and HAP contracts and initial any changes to the RAFTA packet and leasing documents, and then the clients are to do the same thing. If the HAP contracts are e-signed, the providers then upload the signed HAP contracts and leases to HMIS within 60 days of the execution date of the lease and HAP contract and notify the city and county using the referrals city PHAPH spreadsheet. And then if the HAP contracts are wet signed, then meaning in person, using a physical signature, not e-signed, providers must return the documents to the city and county office during the appointment scheduled with the city and county examiner within 60 days of the execution date of the lease and HAP contract. I think I forgot to mention in a note here that it is also a requirement for the client to contact the city and county to schedule an appointment with the examiner if they are going to deliver that in person. Both steps lead to the landlord reaching out to the city and county for any questions about the HAP contract or HAP payments, if applicable. And then the city and county will mail out the executed copy of the HAP contract to clients and respond to inquiries from landlords about the HAP contracts or payments. And then the city and county will issue the HAP payments. Does anyone have any questions about this that they would like answered now, or I can move on if there are no questions at this time?
Lauren, there's a question from someone named Peterson from KPHC. If this is an emergency housing voucher and the processing, it seems like it will take longer than the regular Section 8 voucher. Since HMIS and CCS are involved, what is the best time frame that we can give the client to expect for the waiting time for this specific voucher, if it's approved or not?
The process is the same as our regular housing voucher families. So, but please remember that the document, the verification form, the documentation, they're only good for 60 days. So we have to process those documents after you put them into after they go into HMIS. When we pull it down, we have to issue out a voucher within that 60-day period from the documentation date. If we don't do that, then the documents have to be updated again. So it's really important for regular voucher, our waiting list, as well as this, that we do the processing as this says, within, as quick amount of time as possible.
And then Jane, go ahead.
Oh, so for the families, to give them a timeline, realistically, we have to do it within 60 days. So from the time the process starts, we should be looking at within 2 months, you're getting at least your voucher.
And then Jane,
hopefully less than that.
I'm so sorry. I keep thinking you're finished talking. I apologize.
It's
wanted to ask for a quick question because we have LEP, and for those that will need to find a unit with the state EHV portion of this program, they're issuing holding fees. Is the city and county doing anything like that, or do we not? No, Gail's saying no. Okay, thank you. And then I think Connie has a quick question as well.
My question is, if all of our documents are gathered, and we submit them to EHV, how quickly will EHV be able to transfer all of that, enter it in for the city to review?
Sorry, was that question directed to the city for reviewing or towards our team for reviewing?
For your team, Lauren.
And just to clarify, you're asking how long it'll take us to review the documents?
Yeah, if we give you all the documents, in the packet, like how we would normally and stuff, how quickly will you guys be able to review it and put it into the system to the city for their review?
At the moment, our goal is to have it pretty similar to how we have the state verification process. So we go throughout the week, and we will go over the EHV document checklist here shortly so that you guys can all have a chance to see what that looks like and how to update us. Once we get an update, our goal is to take no longer than a week to verify everybody's those documents once they've been uploaded. So we try to have them done. Right now, our state meetings, for example, are every Monday. We will hopefully identify a date and time, or a day of the week and a time during that day that would work for most providers to be able to attend, starting in May. And then from there, we will try to have all updates that are given between that day of the week and the following week. We'll try to have those updates input into the HMIS and the spreadsheet so that we stay current every week.
So I just have to say, I can see that could become a very, extended period if it's a week, because I just feel like, if we don't, I'm going to tell my staff, don't even submit it until you got the whole packet together. And if that's the case, then, it'll still take a week for you to actually get it in for the city to review.
Well, our goal is to review it ourselves so that when we pass it on to the city, there's little to nothing for them to kick it back as much as possible. And we also agree, we encourage as much as possible. And on the assessment itself, it actually asks that all of the application packet be completed and ready to submit at the time of the assessment. And we ask and encourage that as much as possible. It'll speed up the process a lot for everyone who's able to do that. With that being said, there are 312 vouchers through the city that are available. So depending on how quickly everybody's submitting all of these packets, it's not that we're just trying to take our time, but it can, if, each household has 27 documents that they have to turn in for just one person, and we have to get 312 vouchers out. You can quickly see how many documents that goes in for our team to verify. So I would say, our goal is, and what we've committed to, is having the updates done and checked and updating the spreadsheet prior to the provider meetings each week.
And Connie, you're absolutely, you kind of hit it on the nose, because if we do have 311 vouchers actually, because one is used. If we get all 311 in the first week or two, it's going to slow up somewhere, because we can't do that big volume. So you are right. As soon as everything is in, that's when you should be putting it into the system, because if you put it in before then, it goes back and forth. Something's going to get lost in
Yeah, and that's been our experience, that if you don't have it all together, it really just kind of slows down the whole system, because EHV will be burdened by having to review all of those things over and over again.
Right.
And I think I prefer, like for, at least for my team, I'm going to tell them to just only submit it when you got all the stuff together.
Yeah,
And then we
awesome.
have a more reasonable time frame for when they're going to get their voucher and when they can get housed,
Yes. Thank you. Good point.
Mhm.
And Connie, I also wanted to interject. Lauren and I do our best at least every day. We're spending multiple hours going through. So if not Mondays, I go through and I comment on the spreadsheet and try to tag each provider every day with the updates that I see. So while you might not get the official update until Monday, at least multiple days of the week, I'm going through and making sure everyone knows where the updates are.
That's very much appreciated, Julia. And I was just wondering, like, so, if you early in the week, you review it and everything's all okay already, then you're pretty much submitting it to the city already, right? Before the meeting even, right?
If they're complete, yes, they will be submitted and the provider will be tagged on the official comment that the referral is completed and
Awesome.
we're requesting they be added. If they are incomplete, though, like I said, the provider will still be tagged with in the comment
Of course.
thread what's missing. But
Yeah,
yep,
of
before
course.
Monday, if they're complete, they will be added as they're completed.
Super duper. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then super quickly before we move on, we have two comments. One is from Tiare. Does LEP have more landlords who are willing to accept EHVs? They're currently running into landlords who are not accepting Section 8 or any subsidies. Jonah, Annie, anyone from our LEP team want to speak on that?
So our unit inventory is always evolving. We do have existing relationships with landlords that we can pull. Of course, right? Like we are seeing that there are very many properties that have Section 8, but it's a continual process for us. Every week we are looking out for new units and approaching landlords about this opportunity. So I guess, I guess that would be my answer to that question.
Perfect. And then I think Emma has a question. Does the 60-day countdown start on the date the document is uploaded in HMIS or the date on the document itself? For example, the date of a benefit award letter. If anyone wants to jump in, please feel free. But Emma, from my experience, we do not start any sort of countdown until the document is uploaded into HMIS and we are aware that it's in there. City and county, I don't know if you guys have any interjection on that, if you guys go based on the date of like the award letter or whatnot, but we don't count that.
Carrie, you want to elaborate on the countdown?
Carrie, I think you're muted if you're trying to talk.
Okay, just to,
Okay,
good. Oh, you're here. Okay.
Yeah. You mean the 60 days?
Yeah, the 60-day countdown before the vouchers are issued.
All right. So what the HUD regulations say is that the verifications can't be more than 60 days old when you issue the voucher. So, for example, if our verifications are dated January 1, 2022, we must issue the voucher on or before February or actually March 1 in most cases. It has to be issued 60 days, not later than 60 days from the date of the verification.
So
Okay.
it's very, so Emma, it's very time sensitive. You have, we have to look at, and even when we look at assets verification, we have to look at the past, so many 3 months, and we'll look at the past 3 months. So if it comes in and the last 3 months was 3 months ago, then it's way beyond the 60-day period.
Mhm. And while we're on this, I really quickly just wanted to add that it's also imperative, because all documents are required to be verified as the original document. Whoever's uploading the document into HMIS, we ask that you guys please verify that they are the original document. So they have to be the original bank statements. They have to be the original birth certificate, the original social security card. We have to verify that those were the original versions. I just wanted to make sure we added that in there.
Okay, and then I think we have one more question. Peterson from KPHC, I'm sorry if that's not your correct name or your last name. As a provider that has access to HMIS, would I be able to see any update for each client that is in the process for the EHV? To answer that super quickly, we kind of touched upon it. That's going to be the Google Sheet, the EHV checklist. That's where we'll be tagging you guys in the comments for updates and what's missing. And then I think Connie had a question as well.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Who was it that had a question?
I believe it's Connie, but I don't know if it was an outstanding
Oh,
notification.
no. I didn't know you called on me. I have two questions. One is, you mentioned that you have, you folks want it verified and all the documents verified. How do you verify our verification? Because we can verify for you, because we normally do that when we do, the work with the city directly. So how do you guys verify it?
Lauren,
This-
do you want me to touch upon that, or do you want to speak on that?
I was going to say, once you guys verified that those are the original documents uploaded in HMIS, we go through and make sure that, there's nothing additional that stands out that looks like it would be a falsified document. But we just ask that the providers who go through, that you guys are making sure that you're seeing where the original source of this document came from, and that what is being uploaded. The city then does their own verification, but it's after this is processed. So that's why it's imperative that you guys verify that they are the original documents when you're receiving them from the clients.
Okay, that's great. I mean, I just thought there was another process that they would have to go through if we verify it and then somehow you verify it, but that's fine. The other question I have is, when can the landlord expect to get paid after award of the voucher and the inspection is completed and the unit approved? That's for the city, I think.
The HAP contract has to get returned first, and we have deadlines for whatever payment run is coming up next. So we would put that on the HAP contract before it gets picked up by the family or the providers to take it to the landlord for signature. We do put a deadline as to what date we need it back to get paid for the next payment run. We do have 2 payments run. One we have a mid-month and we have an end of the month payment run.
That's awesome, Gail. Thank you.
And then if it's okay, really quickly to just hop back to the document verification. In my experience, I would suggest the best way that I've found for verifying documents is even if just the case manager or the housing specialist can maybe just write their initials or something on there, just stating, yes, we saw these original documents. There's some organizations that do that, and that's really helpful because then we know, yes, they've seen them, and it makes our process a little smoother. City and county, feel free to interject on that if there's a better way you would like them to verify at least the vital and the bank statements and whatnot.
I know, Morgan, are you on? Isn't that one of the HMIS assessment form questions or something?
Are we talking about
Just stating that you've seen the originals?
So when they go into HMIS to upload the document, we're just asking everybody that when you upload it, you're uploading the document that you verify is that original document.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
right.
yeah.
That's right. and that's fine. Here at the city, we see the original documents. We make a copy. We stamped our copy as we saw the original document. So if we get audited, that's the method. So what we're saying is that when you're putting it into HMIS, you are certifying that you've seen the original documents.
Exactly. And it shows who uploaded the document as well. So if there's a question about the document, it shows whose account. And when Josh goes ahead and shows how to upload the documents, I think you might be able to see what I'm referring to. There's a category that says user, pretty much, who uploaded it, and it'll show the name for whoever's HMIS account it was uploaded under. So if there's a falsified document, we will we'll know who to come ask about it, so to speak.
And the important thing is, we have to verify birth date, of course, correct name, legal name, and all. So when it goes through and they get assistance from the federal government, housing assistance. If it doesn't match up in the system, the federal system, then it's going to come back and hurt the family because we're going to chase after them. We cannot assist them if things don't link up. Birthdays are not right, and names not the way it's supposed to be. One example is a lot of families that came from like the COFA states, and a lot of their documents, they want to change their name, so they just white it out and they change their name. Those kinds of things. And then when it goes to Social Security matching and all, it doesn't match up. So then it comes back to us saying, you can't assist this family because it's not matching up. So that's why it's important to see the original documents, to get it to go all the way and be happily ever after at the end. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Any other questions right now, Madison?
No, I think we're good right now.
Okay, perfect.
Before we move on, I only want to just kind of reiterate on that because I was asked if the stamp is sufficient enough to verify. I know the city and county, you guys have mentioned that you stamped the document, that you verified it. I just don't know how sensitive you guys are with something like that, because we do have some providers that stamp the scanned copy and say, yes, we've seen the originals. Is that something you guys are expecting, or just trusting that once they're uploaded into HMIS, the user is basically attesting that, yes, we've seen the original, it's all good, nothing is falsified?
Number two, we're
Okay.
saying, you are saying that you've done that.
Okay, perfect. And just as I finish that one, we have one more question. If a client has been in HMIS, can this client ask Section 8 to apply for this specific voucher?
I don't know if that's you're asking us, but it's we get the referral from, we have to get it's a referral. So the EHV team with PIC has to decide whether it can be referred as for the EHV vouchers. We won't decide that.
No, it wasn't a question from our team. It was someone from Peterson at KPHC. So I don't know if that's a CES question. I'm not too familiar with this answer, so I apologize.
I can speak to this, Madison. This is Morgan. So if a client's been in HMIS, can they ask Section 8 to apply? So they would still need to go through the standard application process for the emergency housing vouchers.
Thank you, Morgan. Any other questions before we move on to the next section? Okay, great.
Brooke, just to answer your question, we're going to go through the EHV assessment after we go through the workflow that's in the agenda for today.
Yep, we're actually going to transition over there right now if nobody else has any other questions related to the workflow. I'll stop sharing my screen. Josh, do you want to share your screen?
Sure thing. Okay, everybody. Again, I'm Josh Fuentes. I'm with the HMIS team. So most of you are already going to be pretty familiar with Caseworthy and how enrollment workflows kind of look. So I'll just kind of point out where we are going to see that assessment happening in HMIS. So you're going to need to be in case management role. And then this is just a test client here. Under case management, at the very bottom, we'll see a link that will take you to the emergency housing voucher dashboard for that client. We'll see a list here of the required documents for EHV eligibility. And then there's also additional document guidance if you want to see a description of what maybe might qualify for these types of verifications. And then at the very bottom, we'll see complete EHV assessment. So this is where we will do just a test enrollment for you folks. So we're going to look for our test client. And again, this is going to be very similar to other program enrollment workflows in HMIS if you're already familiar. So this is let's see what I'm looking for. Scanning test. I'm not sure. Sorry, guys, why it's acting kind of funny right now. Just go back to my role. On my client, first thing you're going to do is look for your client, make sure they're in the system. So we're going to just look for our test client. Because this one's not doing what I want. Okay, here we see a test client, and we would go to case management, and then we would click on emergency housing voucher. And that would take us to that dashboard. And again, we would just click on the bottom where we would start the EHV for this client. This client already has one started, I believe. Yes, they do. So we're just going to come complete this assessment. And this is what the actual EHV will look like in HMIS. You'll see there's quite a bit of text on this form that offers some directions into how to actually complete this. And this looks quite similar to the previous EHVs up to this point. There are going to be some new additional fields in here. So this is what Lauren was alluding to. Before you are even filling this out, you should make sure that this client has all of their documents, required documents already uploaded into HMIS. If we say no, we're not going to be able to continue. Let's say we'll do it for yesterday. You would just go through and fill these fields as appropriate. Case manager that they're assigned to, what provider that case manager works for, case manager's phone number, case manager's email address. So these two questions here are new to the city EHV process. Is the household reporting from another public housing authority? Yes, no. Same with foster youth in Hawaii. And then you'll see texts that Lauren mentioned previously that would possibly disqualify the client from the EHV. So we just need to pay attention to this. Text kind of offers a helpful reminder of the process and who's going to qualify. When we get to this section here, previously all clients that were being entered for HPHA were all considered recently homeless, but now we have additional categories here. So depending on the category that this household fits into, is going to change the fields that need to be answered. If we are going to say individuals who are recently homeless, we will see a definition populate for that field. We need to read over that definition and understand that, yes, this is actually accurate for the description of this household. And if you want to see the actual document associated with that, you can click on that link. And I believe this was on page 16 that you could come and review the document yourself. For recently homeless clients, we are also going to have additional questions appear here for their follow-up questions. And some of these are new. So is the family or the household part of the family unification program, city family unification program or food voucher? Is the household willing to relocate if they are housed? And then these last two questions here are going to determine whether or not the client is fast-tracked. So if we say yes to they've been housed for 12 months and yes, they only require one case management contact per month or less, then this client will be fast-tracked and they will not be answering the health, housing, and finance questions. If they say no to either one of these, then yes, you do have to go in and answer the remainder of these questions here. And for the last three questions on the assessment, these are specific to housed clients most recently experienced homelessness. So you won't see these questions if you selected the category of families who are homeless or at risk or fleeing. And then the final section is going to be specific for LEP. So whoever's completing the LEP section will come back here and answer these. These are set to, the LEP section is set to not required because these might not be completed at the time when you're actually doing the assessment. So if you've done it up to this point, then you can just hit save. And then we would see our client is now enrolled in emergency housing voucher. Like so. If we needed to come back and revisit this to either make edits or updates or to complete the LEP section, we could go to that dashboard and we would click on EHV summary, and that will take you to a field that looks like this. I'm not going to actually click on it because there could be some, sensitive client data there. And then you would be able to select edit, or if you needed to delete that specific EHV assessment, then that's how you would do it. Should I talk about uploading documents now, Lauren, or should I wait for that?
Yeah, I think now's a great chance while you're in there.
Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, no problem. In that case, I'm just going to switch over to that has the most recent document labels updated.
While he's pulling that up, I just want to let you know, Jane, that there's some that we're working on taking off from the state. We're fixing it. In case you see one like the personal declaration, that will no longer be in there as of the 28th because we won't be receiving HPHA's documents anymore.
Yeah, so if you are working with this client and you are wanting to upload documents, most of you folks will probably already know this process, but if we are on the client record, there's actually multiple roles you can access client documents through, but we'll just use case management as an example. And then when we go to the documents and photos dashboard, here on the left, we can see a summary of things that have already been uploaded to this client's record. Again, this is just a test client. If we wanted to add additional documents, we would go to client document on the left, and we would go to add new right here. And then we see all of our different document types listed here, including all the city EHV specified documents listed. And if we were going to upload one, we would just indicate that verification method and then select the actual document. In most cases, there might not be an expiration date, but it might also be helpful to add an additional case note as you're uploading this document. It will attach a note to the document for whoever's reviewing that document if it's something necessary that needs to be mentioned about that specific upload. And again, if you were to follow here to where the documents are stored, you'd be able to view the document here by just selecting on view if it's that type of uploaded record. Are there any questions about that, or in general, the HMIS workflow for entering EHV?
Josh, I just want to ask a couple of questions. Well,
Sure.
because there are multiple questions. The first one I had was my question. I've noticed a lot of duplicates. So when you put in the HMIS client ID, you know, there's multiple people, and you had gone over kind of how to check for the duplicates. If there are duplicates, how do you suggest the provider mitigate that problem and merge them into one?
Sure. If you're searching for a client and you are finding multiple records for the same client, reach out to the HMIS team right away, and we will work on merging those records. And even during that interim process, because sometimes it takes a bit to sort of determine where to send the data and which is going to be ultimately the surviving client ID in the system, we can let you know which record you should be using to enroll the client. Yeah, so just reach out to us, HMIS at partnersincare.wahoo.org.
Oh, perfect. And we'll also provide that email to anyone that needs that. And then Elena had asked a question that I also noticed today. A lot of the documents now have city in front of it. Is that kind of a typo, or will there be just one blanket category in HMIS?
I'll answer that. I had Josh do that because I know that we're getting ready to transition over, and I know that the city and state application packets are different. So we're already starting to get applicants uploading documents for the city application packet. And as we're in the last week of the state application packet, we're just letting people know, like, these are what's required for the city. As I know I briefly touched on before Josh started sharing this, there are some that I'm going to work with Josh to fix. I know there's like the personal declaration is the first one that comes to mind. That's a state specific, not a city specific application document. So anything in there, I'll go over that. I'll try to send that out to him this afternoon so that we can try to get that resolved. But it's really to make it easier for everybody who's working both with the state application and the city application packet, so that there's not confusion about which documents are going to be uploaded for which packet.
Yeah, that's great. And now that I'm staring at this dashboard for a minute, something I do want to point out too is we have this message help desk link at the bottom. This sends an email directly to our HMIS help desk. So if you do find duplicate, or if you're having other issues within HMIS, especially related to EHV, then you're welcome to use this form and send this directly to our HMIS help desk, and we'll get back to you as fast as we can.
Thank you so much. This is super helpful.
Lauren, before we move on, I think we have some outstanding questions I just want to touch upon while we're on this subject. Charlene had asked, for the victims of sex trafficking in the at-risk population, will the service providers be able to do the VI and upload the docs to the HMIS? So in a roundabout answer, Charlene, no, you guys will not be doing the VI and the documents to HMIS. You guys will be using the Google form. Morgan, I don't know if you want to touch more upon the VIASPDAT for specifically for victim provider services, how you guys would prefer they approach that situation.
Sure. So just a heads up, the VISPDAT is not necessary for the emergency housing voucher. It's the emergency housing voucher assessment that needs to be completed for them to be considered. And then, yes, I think Jess is gonna send out an email, or she might put in the link where of the Google form for the DV assessment, which it's actually the same link that all victim service providers have and have been completing for the EHV thus far. It's been updated to have all of the city questions. So that it's actually the same link if you already have it. And if not, then I think Jess will be following up with that link. Maybe anyone can email you if they have questions about where to find it.
Yes, I'm looking for it right now. Put it in. Thanks, Morgan.
Okay.
Thank you, Morgan. And then I think Bryn had a question. Can you elaborate on the question, is the household port over from another HPHA? I don't know if the term HPHA should be used. I think it should be PHA. Is that a transfer? Number 2, if the provider doesn't know, how do they find out? What happens if they select yes, what happens? Does anyone want to touch on that?
Port overs come directly to us from another state, PHA. So we would then direct that family or those documents straight through to the RN folks, so that they can be, put into the system where if they need help with LEP assistance, they can get that assistance. But they will come in to us with an EHV voucher.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you.
would really, oh, sorry, Matt. I was just gonna say that would really be the only circumstance that we don't have providers uploading the documents into either HMIS or the Google Sheet platform, because all of their documents have already been verified by their previous PHA, and as Jane just mentioned, they're sent directly over to the city. So it's really just the unit search that we help with. So I hope that adds a little bit of clarification. Sorry, Matt.
Real quick, guys. Sorry, it's Bryn. So that question though, that's for the provider to select yes or no, right? In the assessment, in that section that Josh was going over, that question pops up when the provider is completing that. Am I understanding that correctly?
If there's a question that asks about them being a port-in, then your answer would just be no, because they would go directly to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Okay, really quickly, and then TRA asked another question. Will the docs that were uploaded to birth certificate and not the city EHV birth certificate sections be merged? TRA, Lauren and I, since we do a lot of this, we usually just look for any of the vital documents, at least within the last 2 years. As long as, for example, the photo ID isn't expired, we'll accept that. Josh, do you think they will be merged if they're under, city EHV birth certificate, or should we just keep looking for birth certificate, photo ID, and social, regardless of what the title is?
If it's okay, Josh, because I told Josh, he asked me the same question pretty much, and I told him that we were just going to keep looking for the outdated documents, or not outdated, that's not the right word, but the docs that were uploaded before we added the city verbiage into that. So any documents that were, like even bank statements, for example, if they were just uploaded under verification of income prior to us adding city EHV verification of income category, we would still go in and verify those. Same with birth certificate, social security card, other documents. As long as they're, as Madison mentioned, just to reiterate, as long as it's not expired, because if it's expired, we will see that and we'll request an updated version.
So before we move on, we have another question. Peterson from KPHC. If the client is already on a waiting list for either public housing or Section 8, would they be able to apply for this EHV?
If they're on a wait list, is that the question?
If they're either on a wait list for public housing or Section 8, would they be able to apply for the emergency housing voucher?
Yes, correct me if I'm wrong, city and county team, but I believe that they can still apply. If they're receiving another subsidy already, we ask that, you know, I mean, we don't really ask, but they can only be eligible for one or the other. They can't receive both subsidies at the same time. So if they're applying for both multiple, not EHV, HCV programs at the same time, they would just go typically to whichever they're accepted to and the vouchers issued to first. And then they would be unassigned from the alternate program.
Yeah, correct. We notified 1,500 of our applicant families on our current waiting list that they may qualify, and in that flow chart, that was the first area we kind of screened them out to see if they might meet one of the 4 categories, and then we referred them to the access points. So they can be on our waiting list, and they will continue to be on our waiting list until they get an actual voucher and lease up at a place. Use the voucher.
Awesome, thank you. And then Madison, I'm not sure if you have any more questions, but I see Christina Wu's hand is raised. Christina, did you want to ask anything or say anything?
No, my question was answered. Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions, Madison?
Nope, as I see them, I will ask.
Okay, I'm just gonna pull up this assessment really quickly for the victim service providers, and I'm just gonna share my screen really quickly. I won't go through the whole thing. It's pretty much the same assessment for the most part, but there will be, you know, unique identifiers specifically for VSPs. So this is the assessment, and this is the one that Jess, thank you so much for sending this link in the chat, Jess, shared. So if you haven't filled this out, this is what it looks like. If you have any questions about it, please feel free to reach out to either our team or the CES team if you have any questions about that. Okay, with that, thank you so much, Josh, for showing that and going over all of that. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the application packet now. Okay, oops, sorry. Trying to find the magic zoom in number. Okay, so this is the EHV application packet. It has gone live. I believe it was about 2 weeks ago. It was posted onto our Partners in Care Emergency Housing Voucher webpage. About halfway down the page, you can access both the HPHA and city and county application packets. We'll just go through briefly. On these first couple of pages, it goes through the Emergency Housing Voucher Partnership rules and responsibilities so that all parties understand what's expected of them, essentially. We'll just go through clients' expectations first, is to reach out to the provider to initiate EHV application process, provide all documents to the providers or Partners in Care EHV team, complete inside the HUD 92006 form, allowing the provider the authorization representation with the city and county. They'll attend the voucher briefing scheduled by the city and county to receive the voucher, RAFTA rental packet, family packet, and landlord packet. They'll sign the issued voucher, sign the new lease. I want to reiterate, it's a 12-month lease that must start as a new lease once the voucher is issued. They will adhere to the city and county EHV rules. They will adhere to their tenant rules and lease rules. They may need to be present for the scheduled HQS inspections. And then all changes must be reported prior to the execution of the HAP contract and start of the final lease. Thereafter, they must report household and/or income changes within 10 days of the change to the city and county Section 8 office. And then they must pick up the HAP contract and leasing documents from the city and county and return all completed documents by the city and county deadline. The roles and responsibilities for providers and case managers, they must identify eligible clients and complete the EHV eligibility assessment for the EHV program, collect and submit emergency housing voucher documents, eligibility documents from clients and landlords, They must assist clients with obtaining missing EHV application documents and uploading them to HMIS, including any changes to the household and/or income prior to the lease up. Participate in navigation fairs to assist clients. Just to touch on what navigation fairs are, we try to accommodate and meet with clients as needed to support the providers with collecting documents. When, you know, we'll have like a bulk day where everybody comes and we'll just collect mass amounts of documents and upload them to HMIS. So we ask that all providers participate that as much as possible. And then ensure clients attend to EHV orientations and appointments, provide updates and Monday EHV progress meetings, provide case management and crisis management as needed, conduct check-ins with clients at 30, 60, 90, and 120 days in the EHV program, contact and then negotiate with landlords to collect RAFTA packets for clients who have a lease in place, attend lease meetings with landlords for clients who need to move to assist clients as you guys are available to do so. Submit unsigned leases to the city and county through HMIS, except for the city and county payee forms, which must be original signature documents or wet signed. Assist clients with pickup of HAP contract and leasing documents from city and county, and assist with the return of completed documents. The Partners in Care EHV and CES teams' responsibilities are to field general EHV inquiries from EHV partners, update and refine the EHV processes and workflow as recommended by the city and county and providers, review EHV assessments and add new applicants to the EHV document checklist spreadsheet. This is from the CES team. And then verify submitted EHV eligibility documents from case managers. By verification, we mean we go through, make sure all the documents that are requested are there, that there's no missing pages or signatures, forms, that everything appears that it's not been manufactured or forged. And then we update the spreadsheet. We refer clients through CES, and city and county will receive completed EHV applications via HMIS. Accept port-ins from city and county if the client has ported in with an EHV voucher. Host navigation fairs once a month or as is safe due to COVID, Tuesday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. to assist with document collection or to follow up with clients who have already begun the EHV application process. Facilitate weekly provider meetings to monitor progress, bust barriers, and problem solve. Participate in Wednesday meetings with the city and county to monitor progress, bust barriers, and problem solve. Coordinate processes between case managers and the city and county. Coordinate socially distanced appointments to collect EHV documents from clients and landlords on a case-by-case basis, meaning occasionally, if you guys have clients who are in extenuating circumstances and your team is unable to assist, we will do our best to go out and pick up the documents from clients if that's what's needed. Engage landlords and acquire units. Coordinate lease signings. Except for payee information forms, submit unsigned leases and RAFTA rental packets to the city and county via HMIS. And when the unit is approved and the HAP contract is completed, follow up with the city and county for outstanding HAP contracts that haven't been returned and delayed payments. The city and county's roles and responsibilities are to field general inquiries and direct clients to providers and CES access points. Refer port-ins to Lauren, myself, and the EHV team for help with housing search, service fee access, and any updated verification needed from a local source. Port-ins are issued a voucher from the initial PHA, so their eligibility has been determined, but there may be a change when the family arrives here. Attend weekly provider meetings to monitor progress, bust barriers, and problem solve with EHV partners. Audit the EHV application and approve or refer back to the provider and PIC EHV team. Send the PIC EHV team orientation details and approve list daily, if any. If not approved, provide details to the client, provider, and PIC EHV team pending issues. Schedule and notify the client or provider to attend the voucher briefing to sign the voucher and pick up voucher and RAFTA rental packet. The voucher briefing provides information needed to find a suitable unit, which includes utility allowances and gross rent limits for each voucher family. Participate in Wednesday meetings with the PIC EHV team to monitor progress, bust barriers, and problem solve. Process RAFTA packets and conduct rent reasonableness assessments. Conduct HQS inspections and re-inspections. Process HAP contracts and respond to inquiries regarding the tenant voucher portions and HAP contracts and payments, and then make the HAP payments. Then we go on to the next document in this packet, which is the what to submit checklist. This is not a document that you must return or upload to HMIS. This is simply like a resource or a tool for you guys to be able to track which documents the clients need to collect. On this first category, we have income verification. So they go through different types of income and examples and options of what is accepted for income verification for the associated type of income. And then assets, they go through each different kind of form of asset that's in here and what is required for each asset. Expenses, different expenses that they require additional documentation for, which are medical expenses, childcare and disability assistance expenses. Identification, they must have their original social security number and immigration documents if the immigration documents apply to them. And then we must see their original documents as well. If we are doing the navigation fair, collecting the documents for them, we will be the people to verify that. And then for identification such as driver's license, birth certificates, marriage certificates, or divorce decrees, you guys can submit photocopies via mail, email, drop off at the office, or upload to HMIS. And then additional forms included in the application packet that we will go over are the Declaration 214 form, the HUD 9886 form, the HUD 52675 form, or the debts owed form. The HUD is fraud worth it flyer with case manager or must be reviewed with a case manager or housing coordinator. The physician's evaluation, health service evaluation, live-in aid certification if there's a live-in aid. Physician certificate of disability if there are special needs applicable. HUD supplemental and optional contact form. Use of medical marijuana acknowledgement form. Statement of family obligations. Family summary sheet. Criminal history / sex offender certification. Request for asset verification. Employer's report form. The RHIP what you should know about EIV form. And since we've also added at the end of this application packet is the arrearages and utility assistance request form. On this first page, we go over what the factors of eligibility income limits are. Correct me if I'm wrong, city and county, but these are going to be updated. I believe it's as of April 1st that these numbers will be updated.
Usually it's around April.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So
Sometimes
we will,
a little later, sometimes
okay.
way later.
We will update the application packet on the PIC website as soon as we get the updated income limits. And then we begin, I believe this is the first page of the 15-page application packet. So it's pretty self-explanatory. They go through the details of the Section 8 household application / annual update report. They acknowledge that this is not going to be falsified. They won't commit fraud on this form. They provide all of the information that's requested on these forms. They ask for household member information, their names, date of birth, social security number, age. And then on the right-hand side, you'll be able to see all of the additional documents that would be applicable or required if they fall under their circumstances. They mark down their races and ethnicities that they identify with, their citizenship and U.S. veteran status. If they are permanent resident alien, they would provide that number. They would notify if they are a student and then give details about the school that they're attending, the place of birth, other names that have been used, and marital status. And then I believe they give multiple options for additional household members on the second page. Again, additional household members on the third page and fourth page. And fifth page. Sixth page as well. And then we come into their employment status. So we have their occupation, their name, their wages, their employer's address and details or information. If they receive overtime, bonuses, tips, commission. When they were hired, their employment status, so part-time or number of hours per month or full-time. And then the additional documents that are requested will be in the column on the right-hand side. They give multiple slots for this to be completed for either multiple jobs or multiple household members with different jobs. They ask if any household members have terminated employment within the last 12 months. If yes, then we ask for the verification of termination. The verification must include the name of the household member, employer's name, and employment termination date. They ask for if any household members have filed federal or state income tax returns in the last calendar year. And then we ask for the federal and state income tax returns to be brought to the appointment. Those can be uploaded as well to HMIS. And then on this section is income. So they ask for different forms of income or assistance that the household members may be receiving, who provides the income and the amount. And then the verification will be, as mentioned, on the what to submit checklist. Typically, it's things like award letters, which are the most recent and valid versions, statements, things of that nature. In-kind income is asking if any household members receive cash contributions or goods and services in lieu of cash from a source outside the household on a regular basis, included but not limited to diapers, baby formula, cell phone payments, gas, cigarettes, utility payments, or other bills, etc. If they check yes, then we also need a letter from the source of this income that includes the name, address, and phone number of the payer. Also need to describe the type of income, what it's used for, the amount and frequency of income in the letter. Under this section, it asks for care provider for a child 12 or under or for a disabled person. So they ask for all of these details. The third-party verifications are things like invoices from the care providers, receipts, statements, things of that nature. And then for assets, they ask, does the household member own or is planning to purchase real estate such as land and or building, mobile homes anywhere? If they put yes, then we need to provide the details requested, such as type, address, and estimated value. For other assets, there are checking accounts and saving accounts. They must submit all of the information requested, such as the account holder's name, account number, name, and address of financial institution, and the amount currently in the account. And then they have to mention if they closed any financial institution accounts within the last 12 months. Same thing for savings accounts. And then there are other forms of assets that they can mark off, along with whom, the account number, institution, and the amount. And then this one will be for this is for recertification only, so this won't apply to most of you folks who will be completing this application packet with your clients for the first time. This section is asking if they have a live-in aid, and then these are the options for submitting verification of the live-in aid, whether or not they pay for this service for themselves, and then to explain if not. They ask if anyone in any adult member of the household has ever used any names or social security numbers other than the ones that have been listed. If yes, then they need to explain. If anyone residing in the household has ever been arrested for any criminal activity, If yes, they need to give the dates, charges, city and state. If anyone residing in the household has ever been subjected to the lifetime sex offender registration, if yes, they need to give dates and charges. Have you or any other member of the household transferred or given away any business or asset in the last 2 years for less than its full value? If yes, they need to give dates, charges, the city and the state. And again, for all of these, there are the options that are required for the verification of these categories. Have you or any member of your household ever lived in public housing and or received rental assistance, Section 8 rent supplement? If yes, you need to give details. If you or anyone in your household have committed fraud and or been evicted from any federally assisted housing assistance program, did they have the money to repay for knowingly misrepresenting information for such housing programs? If yes, they need to explain. And then we would review their eligibility status as well. Are there any children 6 years and under who have elevated blood level of lead? Special needs. Does anyone in your household claim mobility, visual, or hearing impairment or other special need? If yes, then they would list the names and household members and provide the physician certificate of disability. Medical expenses for elderly, handicapped, disabled families only would list the details on these lines here below, including the household name, name of provider, purchased item, and the amount. And then the applicant/tenant certification affidavit notice. They would sign essentially stating that all of these details are correct and that they acknowledge all of the sections of this form in this application packet. And then please complete this form other than a member of the household. If a person other than the member of a household had to help complete this form, it's a translation statement and it's certifying that the family fully understands the proceedings. And then we go on to the additional forms. So that's the full 15-page application packet. In addition to that, there is, or application, in addition to that, included in the packet, there's the supplemental and optional contact form. This is required to be completed. I know it sounds a little tricky. They have to complete it, but they don't have to provide additional contact information. If they don't wish to provide additional contact information, they would check this box here and sign and date. The use of medical marijuana form.
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but don't we want them to complete that form listing their service provider as their alternate contact so we can communicate with them?
Sorry, it's a little difficult to hear.
Yeah, that form is optional, but I thought it might be a good idea if the family does complete it.
Oh, yeah.
Listing their service provider as or case manager as their contact person to kind of facilitate this application.
Oh, gotcha. It was our understanding, at least with the state, it's a required form to complete, but they don't have to provide the additional contact information if they don't want to. They can mark that they don't want to
Yeah,
provide.
that is, you're absolutely correct. It's just that we felt that if the families, especially if they're homeless, complete this form, if we can't get in touch with them, we can get in touch with the provider who we can then convey the information right away to.
Gotcha. I see.
But they need to spell this out in this form.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thanks.
Okay. And then the use of medical marijuana form, this form in many words basically says that even if the client has a medical marijuana form, I'm sorry, medical marijuana card, they can't claim that the property is discriminating against them for their medical marijuana card, sorry, if they're receiving HUD or federally assisted housing programs, like the emergency housing voucher. So the property is not required to allow them to smoke or use or possess the medical marijuana, even if they have a medical card.
Yeah, that, we can't get away from that because the
Yeah.
federal government still considers it a controlled substance. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. The statement of family obligations is pretty self-explanatory. They go through the expectations and obligations of the households. Reporting requirements, all changes must be reported in writing within 10 days. Enterprise income verification. This is about using the EIV system. So they would print their name, date, and sign. This is the family summary sheet. So again, pretty self-explanatory. They provide the last name of the family member, the first name, the relationship to the household, for example, head of household or spouse or child, sex, date of birth, month, date, and year, and then the declaration. It specifies on the declaration legend at the bottom what categories 1 through 4 are. Declaration of Section 214 status. This is regarding their citizenship status. So they would mark whichever box correlates. They'd fill out one of these lines here with their name, certifying that this form is for them, and then they sign and date. It's required for every household member, adult or child, but the head of household or an adult over the age of 18 who's responsible for the minor can sign here for the minor. Acceptable documents are listed here for that form, the Declaration of 214 status form. There's another one provided for additional household members. This is the HUD 9886 form. It's essentially a release of information between HUD and the PHA, or in this case, the City and County Section 8 office. Anyone over the age of 18 must sign this form. The debts owed form, this is declaring that they understand that the PHA and the HUD will take a look into their debts that may be owed and that they will be verifying that on their end. Any adults over the age of 18 in the household must sign this form.
So debts owed will not be a barrier, but should the family terminate and they owe a debt, it will be reported to HUD, and that's why they're signing that form also.
Thank you for that clarification, Jane. The criminal history and sex offender certification, they must be honest and provide all of the details requested on this form. And then they must sign and date it. There are multiple provided for anyone over the age of 18. And then this is a form requesting the details, the request for verification of essentially these assets. So they must provide the type of account, the account number, the total asset value, sign and date, and they're acknowledging that this will be verified.
Oh, Lauren?
Yeah.
On that form, that's actually, if you don't have access to your bank statements, it's included in every packet, but if you provide your bank statements, you don't need to use that form.
Absolutely right.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, yeah.
Thank you. The employer's report. So this can be filled out by the household or employee's employer, just regarding their employment details, their salary or wages, details like that. And then the Section 8 rental assistance program details are laid out here, along with just a look into each of the documents that are listed, essentially on the what to submit checklist. So they specify all of the details about who's required to fill out these documents, who's required to complete or provide additional documents, things of that nature. And then the emergency housing voucher service fees request form. This form is for arrearages and for utility payments. So if they're requesting that, then they need to complete all of this form and include all of the details of the payments that they're requesting to be made, as well as who it will be sent to and the payee information. Any questions about the application packet? I know it is not too short, so this would be a good time to pause and answer any questions from anyone about this packet.
Quick question, Lauren.
Yeah, go ahead.
That last page you had about the financial assistance, do you have a maximum amount you guys can assist with, or?
That comes from the city and county Section 8 office, so I will direct this question to them, but that's a great question.
Thank you.
Okay, on the,
$3,000.
Go ahead,
Oh, I'm
Carrie.
sorry.
go ahead, Carrie.
For utilities, arrearages, deposits, and security deposits, all told, it's $3,000 for new moving expenses, applications, that kind of thing. It's $300, I think.
I'm sorry, 3,000 or 300?
$3,000 is the limit for any security deposit, utility deposit, or utility arrearage assistance. So if a family moves into a $3,500 house, they've still got to hunt down part of the deposit.
500. Okay.
Yes,
Gotcha.
yes.
Thank
yes.
you.
And then in that form, there's a top area. The top area actually helps is picks EHV side when they're doing help LEP help. They have a little bit of funds to help with searches and all those things.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That would be so helpful.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions? I see there's some. Madison, are you still on?
Yep, the main one was, the most recent one was from Victoria. Does that form, last pages, need to be completed at submission? Maybe they don't know. And then.
Oh, Victoria, no, that can be done when more of everything's kind of being, at the end lined up, and we know the unit that they want the unit, and the unit passes inspection, and prior to the unit even being inspected, they know that they don't have the money for the deposit, or they tell us that, and as early as you can tell us that there's a rearage. That would help, so that we can help with finding out what the amount is for, because that would be a barrier for them to move into, say, a house, and they're going to pay for the water bill, but the water supply will not set them up, or HECO will not allow them, to hook up or whatever. We want to try to eliminate the barriers that we can as soon as we can.
Thank you, Jane. And then I think the last question Elizabeth asked, how long do EHVs last? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's until 2030. And then after that, it's on a year-by-year basis, depending on the funding available.
Yep. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jane.
Okay, so our vouchers, the voucher issuance, whatever vouchers we issue out of our 312 vouchers on the September 30th, 2023, they will continue to get benefits as long as they qualify up until the 10-year period. But if we're only using, instead of 312 vouchers, we're only using 300, we will lose 12 vouchers. And so the 300 families that we have as of September 30th, 2023, those are the ones that have the opportunity to have it last much longer. What I anticipated to happen is that, yes, Congress will have to budget at that point in time, whether they'll extend it beyond, whether it be year to year, and they'll become sort of like our regular vouchers, which is budget every year. Every year we get a new budget. Every year we see, can we house more families? Do we have to, terminate families? That the reality of it can happen where they don't have money. But you're right. After that, it'll be an annual budget authority situation, funding situation.
Thank you, Jane. I hope that kind of clarifies that question. And then Charlene asked, I have a random question. For those who have out-of-state, not expired IDs, can they use that ID, or do they have to use a Hawaii state ID? And if their Hawaii state ID is expired, can they use that ID? From my experience with this state, they can use any ID as long as they're, a resident in Hawaii, unless they're a port-in, as long as it's not expired. Do you guys have anything to say on that?
Can be an out-of-state, unexpired out-of-state ID.
I'm
Yes,
sorry,
that's-
Carrie, I couldn't really hear you. So it's okay if they use an
Yeah.
out of state.
He said as long as it's not expired and or out of state is okay.
Perfect.
Out-of-state is fine. It can be an out-of-state ID. It just can't be expired.
Can't be
Everything
expired.
it has to be, current, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, awesome. Thank you guys. And then Jonah, just as a quick reference note, Jonah said, I'm sorry for the miscommunication, but currently our LAP team does not have funds to assist with any of the deposits at this time. So just so you know, and we've kind of touched base on, you guys said as long as it doesn't exceed, what was it, 3,500 or 3,000?
3,000.
Okay, so anything outside of that, it's up to the program and the client to come up with the funding for that. And then Kawata, I think Jennifer asked, she has 3 questions. Do all of the members of a household have to have original documents? Yes, they do. Can they take their voucher to another island? Yes, they can. They just have to contact that local housing authority. And then the last question is, if the client is OHN and they have a lease in place, will they need a new lease? Yes, every client, upon the receipt of their voucher, will have to sign a new 12-month lease. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but
Okay, can I address, Jennifer, on your port out voucher, they can port out to another location, but the security deposit assistance is not as much as the staying in place. I think the limit is, was it Carrie, 1,200? The receiving agency can assist with, I think 1,200 is the maximum. I have to look that up, but yeah. We,
I would have to look
you
it up.
can't expect them to have those kinds of arrangements like we do with our rules, yeah. Okay, and then what else was it? The length of, I'm sorry? And they take their voucher.
I think the next major question was if the client is in the OHN program and they have a lease in place, will they need a new lease?
Yes,
And correct me if I'm wrong, but every client will have to sign a new 12-month lease upon the
Yes.
receipt of the voucher.
correct.
Okay, perfect. And then I'm not too sure about the last question. Page 9 of application is the LIHEP and in-kind income.
The energy one, it's not. Because they don't receive the money or the benefits from it, or a commodity for it. It just goes onto their bill, right? Is that what you're talking about, Lahi?
I believe so. I'm not too sure. I think this
Yeah.
is the first time I've come across it.
She said yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not countable income. It's not. They should declare it on the application, but we don't count it.
One of the minor children does not have their birth.
And then Jane, do you see that last question from Charlene about the minor children not having their birth certificate, but they have their social security card?
Can they still remain with the custodial parent in the home? We do need the birth certificate. We have to verify the birth date. Or if it's a passport or something, so one question is a passport, that's valid if the passport is still current, it's still good. Yeah, we still need to verify. Again, the connection to HUD is that we need to verify birthday, social security. That connects HUD's funding to us and validates that these people exist. So those things need to be provided, need to be verified, provided.
Okay, Jane, I
That's
know I
not
have
the
so
only
many
reason,
questions.
but for date of birth is important because for kids, for example, the family gets a dependent allowance for children in the household under the age of 18. And so the way we verify that the person is eligible for that allowance is their date of birth.
Yep.
So we do have to document that. And similarly for an elderly household, we have to verify that the head of household spouse or co-head is 62 to mark them as an elderly family. So so we do we do have to verify the date of birth because it impacts the family's level of assistance.
Okay, can I ask you guys a quick question? We've been running into some newborns and there's a delay in issuing birth certificates. Will you guys accept the hospital generic certificate that they issue
Yes.
that so-and-so? Yes, that's okay until they get the
Yeah.
real one?
What about their social security
That's right.
cards? It's kind of going hand in hand.
The social security card, we need an original document that verifies the social security number. So that could be a social security card, but it could also be a letter from the Social Security Administration saying what the number is. And the regulations actually allow us also to accept something like an older Medicare card that has the number printed on it. But what we need is an original unaltered document with the social security number on it, not necessarily the card though.
Carrie, you're talking about babies. Babies
Oh,
not
for
getting
babies?
their social numbers right
Newborn.
away.
Oh,
Newborns.
I'm sorry. Yeah, like somebody was just recently born because they get the card
Yeah.
quickly within like 2 or 3 months. They should have the card. But
Within
if they
that
don't
2 or 3
actually
months.
have, yeah, maybe 3 months max.
Yeah, we'll
But
we'll
if
put.
they don't have,
Go ahead, Carrie.
go ahead, Jane.
Oh, they would. We would assign
If-
an alternate ID number.
Okay, the only reason I
Yeah.
ask is because HPHA said it's fine, but when they come to their recertification the next year, they have to include that household and the newborn social birth certificate, everything at that time. Is that
They
what
just
you guys will do or no? Because they don't have the social to generate something for the HUD
Well-
platform.
Yeah, they won't consider it
So-
as a household member. So if there's a newborn plus 4 people, they will only count 4 people until the annual recertification, at which point then they would have the documents to count 5 people.
No, we would count the 5 people, and we would get HUD to provide us with an alternate ID number, but we'd like the social security number as soon as possible because HUD gives us, say, like 6 months before it becomes an error. Yeah, so we'll count the 5, family of 5.
Thank you
just
so
need-
much.
Yeah, as soon as the social number comes through, send it directly, get it, let the family know we need to have it right away.
Okay, thank you guys. And then I know there's lots of questions, so I apologize. Sierra said, I'm sorry if these were answered. I had to hop on a client call. How long before a lease is ending before someone can qualify? Do blended households get prioritized according to the head of household status? Example, if the head of household is literally homeless, but their partner and their child are able to couch surf. Do you guys have an answer for that?
I don't know how, if you're asking the PHA, we're not going to make the determination as to really to fit the 4 categories. So it has to be where is EHV able to verify whether the family meets the 4 categories. So is there validation from your agency to say that that family is homeless or at risk of being homeless and whatever the documentation is? Isn't that right, Lauren?
Yep, it would be under whatever the definition is of those categories, which was mentioned in the workflow. So if they fall under the literally homeless, recently homeless, at risk of being homeless, or surviving domestic or fleeing domestic violence, sexual assault, or human trafficking.
Okay, so it sounds like as long as the head of the household falls under one of those 4 categories,
Yes.
that's how the family will be prioritized.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sierra, to answer your question, how long before a lease is ending? They can apply anytime during their lease, but they will have to re-sign a 12-month lease, even if it's 1 or 2 or 3 months before the voucher is issued. They'll have to re-sign the 1-year lease, and they have to be, if they can't stay in place, the landlord has to be willing to break that lease, or the client will be responsible for the penalty fees or anything associated like that. Feel free to interject on that part, but.
Yeah,
from
and
my
the reason for that is that the lease has to match the HAP contract. The conditions have to match, as well as the execution dates. So if you're using a lease that's not matching, we can't sign it. We can't approve it. So that's what we go based on, when our payments start, what that 1 year, 12-month period is. So yeah, they have to be convince the landlord to either sign a new lease or convince the landlord to let them break the lease so they can find a place they can use their assistance at.
Thank you, Jane. I'm glad you could provide that extra verbiage to explain that a little bit further. And then I think user one might be Shirley. Are applicants able to use the current passport as a birth certificate for our COFAs? Yes, they can. I believe as long as they're over 18. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yes? Okay. And then Charlene has a question. Is the letter from the Social Security Administration office sufficient for providing their minor's date of birth and social security number? Jane or Carrie, do you guys want to speak on that behalf?
Carrie, the letter from Social Security, does it have the birth date?
Yeah, I can't remember. It definitely has the Social Security. Well, they're two letters, right?
Yeah.
So oftentimes a tenant will come to our office with a letter from Social Security Administration saying that the person applied for a Social Security card. That's not the letter we want them to get. We want the letter that verifies the Social Security number, and that letter we can use in place of the Social Security card. But I don't remember if the letter has their date of birth on it. If it did, it would be acceptable documentation, I think.
I don't think it does from
I
what
don't
I
think so either.
remember. But again, you can use, like, if they're born in Hawaii, it's pretty easy to get just the hospital certification of live birth, for example. You guys can use that. Just something that's an official document verifying their birth date.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, an official government document, unaltered, of course. But I think the regulations actually say we could use a baptismal record as well if it has the date of birth. I think that's in there too.
Thank you. Any other questions? If you guys don't have any other questions about the actual application packet, I'm going to really quickly just shift gears and just very briefly take a couple minutes to show the spreadsheets that we'll be using, and then just talk about future scheduling for training sessions and meetings, and then I'll let everybody go. I know this has run over a bit longer than we intended, so thank you everyone for hanging in there. Any other questions before I switch over?
Nope.
Okay, great. I'm sharing my screen right now. Oh, shoot. Sorry about that. I'm on the wrong screen. A moment. Okay. Sharing my screen. Everybody's details in here are blacked out. So this is the EHV document checklist spreadsheet. We use the same spreadsheet for both PHAs. So to avoid confusion when you are using this spreadsheet, if you're going through the city, it's the third tab at the bottom that you're going to want to look at. We've blacked out any confidential information so that we're not sharing that on the screen right now. But on here, pretty much, you'd be able to see all of the details. We've updated this to match the city application packet. So it'll show you the EHV team point of contact. So it'll typically either be Madison or myself that's assigned to this. The EHV category, all of these will be under city and county EHV. The provider, so which one of you guys is going to be, or which one of your teams is going to be working with that client, as well as which one of you on the team will be working with that client. We have the email addresses typically put in here. This is a question specifically for VSPs, if the head of household is a minor or adult, for DV providers only. And then navigation based on the provider recommendation. Has HMIS EHV assessment been completed? We put yes or no. Moving forward, this will only be yes, because we will only have clients show up on this sheet once the assessment's been completed. Whether or not we've referred the client, which will happen once we confirm that we've gone through the entire application packet and verified that it's all there. The head of household last name, the head of household first name, the client's HMIS client ID number. If this is for a victim service provider, then you would just put in whatever their by number list number is on here. For the 7-day notice sent, that's not really so much applicable right now, but once we start doing the weekly provider meetings for updates, this will be as we notify clients or as we notify providers for clients who have had consistently outstanding documents with no new updates, we will eventually give you guys a 7-day notice. If we still receive no new documents or updates within that 7 days, then we will unassign the client. We need to know whether or not the client will need to move so that we can work with our LEP unit, our LEP team for the unit search. And then we will also, I can add in a category here for anybody who does need to move, we will need the housing needs assessment completed. It's not a part of the application packet, but it gives all of the details of the preferences and specifics for the client or the household's needs for finding a unit. So it helps our team really narrow down what kind of unit your client is looking for. Verification that the 15-page application has been completed and signed, that we have the all social security cards, and if applicable, alien registration cards. And we notated here, the provider must see and verify the original versions when uploading to HMIS. Birth certificate or passport, the change of name letter of explanation. So this is a name bridging document. The best example is if their birth certificate shows a different name or last name than their ID, we need the document that shows that change of name. So a marriage certificate, a divorce decree, adoption certificate, things of that nature.
Lauren,
yeah.
Lauren, in P, the Gold Star IDs verify the birth dates also, yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Oh, like the real IDs, is that what you're referring to?
Yes, that's the one.
Okay, perfect. The real IDs as well. Thank you for that. And then the valid photo ID for all adult household members. The 214 form, complete one for each household member. Reviewed HUDs is fraud worth it flyer with case manager or housing coordinator. Physician's evaluation, health service evaluation, live-in aid certification. If there is a live-in aid, if head of household or spouse states that they're disabled. Physician certificate of disability if there are special needs applicable. The use of medical marijuana acknowledgement form. The statement of family obligations. The release of information form, the HUD 9886 form. Income verification, see what to submit checklist for those requirements. 4 months of recent bank statements. We need 120-day consecutive and most recent statements, or a letter of explanation for no bank account, which would technically count as a self-declared. Explanation of cash deposit. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, bank statements, yeah, 3 months, the most recent 3 months.
Oh, I thought it was 4 months. Is it 3 months?
3 months for bank statements, 4 months for pay stubs.
Ah, thank you. Thank you. I'll make sure that we fix that. Okay. Explanation of cash deposits, including in-kind income or gifts from organizations. 4 months, there we go. 120 days of consecutive statements of all assets, or no. That's still 90 days, huh, for all assets? And the pay stubs is the one that's 120 days. The HUD 52675 debts owed form, one completed for each adult household member. The RHIP, what you should know about EIV, one completed for each adult household member. DHS 5000, offer an acceptance or waiver of free interpreter services, completed by the head of household. Statement of family obligation, signed. The HUD supplemental and optional contact form. Head of household is required to sign the form. The request for, and then this is once we get to the point of unit search, if they're needing to move, or from the beginning, if they're needing to stay in place. The request for tenancy approval packet, can be given to landlords in the beginning to complete for those with a lease in place, must wait until the voucher is issued for all who need to move. The EHV service fees request form, if applicable, the criminal history or sex offender certification, and request for asset verification, orientation status, and lease status, and then we have a total for number of documents gathered. So this is what we will be going over each week when we have provider meetings. Each row will be a new client, and we'll go through every single client each week. We'll highlight in red any outstanding documents so that you can check regularly for your clients. And once we get to the point of doing these meetings in May, we will be sharing this with everybody with commenting access. So you guys will be able to comment on this. To comment, you'll click a cell, you'll click the right tab, you'll click comment, and then you can tag Madison and I, for example, here, add the comment, and then assign to us, and we'll be notified for us to go ahead and check these updates. As Madison mentioned in the beginning, we go through this every single day, but our goal is to make sure we get through the whole spreadsheet each week in between meetings.
Lauren, can I just quickly interject?
Totally.
My personal, well, not my personal, but my work email and Lauren's work email will come up. Please tag our work email. So Lauren R at partnersincareoahu.org or Madison C at partnersincareoahu.org. So they go directly to our email. If you tag me at the Madison C at PIC coordinated entry system, it goes to my other email, and I don't check that quite as frequently. I'm still trying to work on how to merge the two, but just for assessment and ease purposes, please just tag my work email directly in this spreadsheet.
Thank you, Madison. And while we're on that, if you guys can try to abstain from emailing us in addition to commenting on this as well, that would be ideal, just because we are getting those email notifications once you tag us. So if you're emailing us as well, we get double notifications, and it takes us twice as long to get through all of the updates. So just tag both of us if you can, Madison C at partnersincareoahu.org and Lauren R at partnersincareoahu.org. And whoever gets to the spreadsheet first, we will update the spreadsheet and we will resolve it. And both of us are notified once it's been resolved, so we don't go in and do double work. Any questions about this sheet before I just quickly show the PHA referral sheet? Okay. So this is the referral city PHA PH referral sheet. Once all of the application packet on this sheet has been confirmed, then we say, okay, they're ready for referral. We let the CES team know that they're ready for referral. The CES team will add the client here and create a comment similar to what we just showed you guys. And in the thread, they will tag all of us. That comment, please don't click resolved throughout the entire lease up process, because that's the ongoing communication of updates between all of our teams, providers, city and county, and the EHV and CES teams. We will continue to provide updates, such as if the city is requiring additional documents once we've verified documents, they'll let us know there. If they have been deemed as exceeding the income limits or as not eligible once the background check has been run, they will update us here. All of that comment thread goes in here. And then this is mostly used for the dates. So it'll be used for the dates that the HMIS assessment's been completed, that if we have to unassign them, when they've been unassigned and why. If we have any comments about it, we will add them there. Their health plan, the household email address. We will also have, if they're on hold for any reason, meaning most circumstances would be a client's in the hospital or isn't on island and not able to complete the packet, we would put the date that they've been on hold. The date that our team verifies all of the eligibility documents have been completed, once they've been scheduled for the voucher briefing, once they've attended the voucher briefing. Once, this should really be our team. Once our team has verified the completed RAFTA packet, it'll go on to the PHA. Once city and county passes the rent reasonableness assessment, those dates will go in here, as well as the inspection completed or failed will go in here. And then once we get to the point of the signed lease and HAP contract going out, those will go here as well. Any questions about anything that we've covered today? I know it's been a lot. Thank you all who are still here. We really appreciate everybody. Nobody has any questions at this time. I'll just let you guys know that beginning on March 8th, I'm sorry, not March 8th, April 8th, which is a Friday, from noon to 1, we will hold office hours, meaning someone from the city and county and someone from our EHV team will make ourselves available on the Teams platform to answer any questions. It'll just be us available here for any Q&A sessions that you guys need. It'll happen every other Friday. Feel free to jump in those. We will send out another HMIS blast once we've set up those ongoing meetings. Does anyone at this time want to request that we do another training session? Would anyone like to sit through another training session? And if so, can you provide some dates and times that you would like to sit in another training session that's not the ongoing office hours? Okay, this Friday is a holiday. And then I'm not available the following Friday, but if you guys, we can talk. I know we're supposed to meet with the city after this. We can touch base and see if we can do a Friday afternoon coming up here shortly. Do you have time preferences, Cara or Kara? Sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly.
Oh, hi. I just meant any Friday afternoons. If
Okay.
you were to schedule something anytime like after 2 o'clock or something like that. You're right. There was a lot of information, but I tried to take as many screenshots, but I do have some little questions that I didn't catch. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no worries. Do you have questions now that you would like us to answer?
I wrote them out, and I think I'm going to go back and reread my notes and see if and I was looking at the chat. So some of the chat questions answered some of my questions too.
Okay, and if it's helpful, we can move that office hours time. If you guys would prefer to not do noon to 1, my Friday afternoons are pretty open. I can, on April 8th, I can do, 2 to 3 if that's easier or better for people.
Yeah, 2 to 3 is good.
Okay, we can keep that in mind when we send that out.
Lauren, before we
yeah.
move on, do we want to talk about provider meeting schedules or not quite yet?
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that. I think the best thing for us to do is to probably meet with city and county, and that will be happening starting the first week of May. Does anyone have any days of the week or times that you guys would like to request for ongoing meetings? This would be every week. Everyone would join for this. You can also, it doesn't have to be right now. You can email me. I would say we'll probably try to narrow this down before the 1st of April. But if you guys, Monday or Friday afternoon, okay, awesome. Thank you. Since we're doing the office hours on Friday afternoons, we would probably do a Monday if that's okay with everybody. Around 2 o'clock. Okay, perfect. So we'll try to, I know these meetings tend to run a while. We have 2 meetings with the state right now. It typically takes us about 6 hours to get through everybody. So they are quite a while. We may want to start earlier in the day, and then if you can join in the afternoon, we can try to, come to yours last, or we can set up individual meetings if you aren't able to make it to one that's ongoing every week. We're happy to accommodate for that as well. If you guys can just send me emails if you have specific requests, and then our team will work with the city and county for now to narrow down hopefully either a Monday or Friday afternoon for those provider meetings weekly. And we'll try to get that link set out in the HMIS blast along with the office hours link before April 1st. City, is that okay? Is that a good game plan with you guys? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Well, unless any, we can, yeah. And if you guys need time to, I'm happy to either take the lead and put this together, or if we want to push it back after April 1st. long story short, we'll be in touch with you guys with the links once we get a date
Always,
narrowed down.
as
and time.
always, yeah. It's just that I'm still digesting 6 hours HPHA meetings.
I know, it's a lot. We're hoping it doesn't happen that way. I know HPHA is also at the end of our contract with them, so there's a lot of people just cramming to try to get as many documents in. So it wasn't always that way, but I would say the short end was about 3 hours for both meetings combined. So
Okay.
yeah.
As
So
long as I have food, I'll be fine.
I know, we'll all be there. Okay, so we'll be in touch with everyone. Thanks everybody for being here. Again, this meeting was recorded, so we will be posting this to the Partners in Care EHV website. Please feel free to reach out to myself, Lauren R. at partnersincareoahu.org, the city and county or Madison with any questions, and we will assist as we're able to. Thank you
Lawrence,
guys.
is tomorrow's one still on?
Yes.
Okay, so tomorrow there's another one. Same old, but you can join that also.
Yes. Thanks. Thank you. And then I know this isn't related to everyone, but city and county, do you guys still have time to meet for our normal meeting? I know this ran quite over, but we're happy to reschedule if you'd like to, or.
Oh, no, sure. If we have a little bit of stuff we want to cover, so.
Okay, perfect.
Let's go for it if you have time.
Perfect. We'll jump on that meeting now. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
have a wonderful afternoon and a great week. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.